Volsinii or Volsinii is the name of two ancient cities of Etruria, one situated on the shore of Lacus Volsiniensis, and the other on the Via Clodia, between Clusium and Forum Cassii. One was Etruscan and was destroyed by the Romans in 264 BC at the conclusion of an attempted revolution by its slaves. The second was founded by the Romans using the remainder of the Etruscan population rescued from the razed city. Modern Bolsena, Italy descends from the Roman city. The location of the Etruscan city is debated. Orvieto is a strong candidate. Bolsena is about 14 kilometers from Orvieto. The region in which Bolsena is located is now in Lazio and Orvieto is located in Umbria. Situation: the Byzantine historian Joann Zonara states that the Etruscan Vulsinii lay on a steep height, while Bolsena, the representative of the Roman Volsinii, is situated in the plain. Scholars of the 19th century debated the location of this elevated site. Wilhelm Ludwig Becken looks for it at Montefiascone, at the southern extremity of the lake, while Karl Ottfried Müller seeks it at Orvieto, and adduces the name of that place in Latin, Urbs Vetus, the Old City, as an argument in favor of his view. But British explorer and writer George Dennis is of opinion that there is no reason to believe that it was so far from the Roman city, and that it lay on the summit of the hill above the amphitheatre at Bolsena, at a spot called Il Piazzano. He adduces in support of this hypothesis the existence of a good deal of broken pottery there, and of a few caves in the cliffs below. Bolsena is 6 kilometers from Montefiascone, and 14 kilometers from Orvieto. Fanum Voltumni was the chief sanctuary of the Etruscans. Numerous sources refer to a league of the 12 peoples of Etruria, which met annually at the Fanum. The exact location of this shrine is still unknown, though it may have been in an area near modern Orvieto, believed by many to be the ancient Volsinii. Professor Simetis Toponi of the University of Macerata, an Etruscologist, excavated at Orvieto since 2000. She believes that Fanum was located at this site. An Etruscan substructure, datable to the 6th–4th centuries BC, has been uncovered. Most impressive was the excavation of a round fountain area on a slight rise above and overlooking the temples, whose decorations included the head of a lion. According to Stopponi, this would have been the sacred spring. History: Volsinii Veteris. Etruscan Volsinii appears to have been one of the most powerful cities of Etruria, the cult center of the god Voltumna, and was doubtless one of the 12 which formed the Etruscan Confederation, as Volsinii is designated by Livian Valerius Maximus as one of the Capita Etruri. It is described by Juvenal as seated among well-wooded hills. Volsinii first appears in history after the fall of Veii. The Volsiniensis, in conjunction with the Salpinates, taking advantage of a famine and pestilence which had desolated Rome, made incursions into the Roman territory in 391 BC. They were defeated. 8,000 were made prisoners, but they purchased a 20 years truce on condition of restoring the booty they had taken, and furnishing the pay of the Roman army for a year. They appear next in 310 BC, when, in common with the rest of the Etruscan cities, except Arretium, they took part in the siege of Sutrium, a city in alliance with Rome. This war was terminated by the defeat of the Etruscans at the First Battle of Lake Vadimo, a major shock to the power. 3 years afterwards, the consul Publius Decius Mus captured several of the Volsinian fortresses. In 295 BC, Lucius Postumius Megillus ravaged the territory and defeated them under the walls of their own city, slaying 2,800 of them, in consequence of which they, together with Perusia and Arretium, purchased a 40 years peace by the payment of a heavy fine. Not more than 14 years, however, had elapsed, when, with their allies the Volsciensis, they again took up arms against Rome. But this attempt ended in the final subjugation in 280 BC. Pliny tells an absurd story, taken from the Greek writer Metrodorus of Skepsis, that the object of the Romans in capturing Volsinii was to make themselves masters of 2,000 statues which it contained. The story, however, suffices to show that the Volsinians had attained great wealth, luxury, and art. This is confirmed by Valerius Maximus, who also adds that this luxury was the cause of the ruin, by making them so indolent that they at length suffered the management of the commonwealth to be usurped by slaves. The attempted revolution apparently began with the admission of freedmen into the army, which must have been in 280 BC. They became a powerful plebeian class. Subsequently they were allowed members in the Senate and to hold public offices. They seem to have acquired majorities, using them to shape the law. Other slaves were set free. They gave themselves all the privileges formerly reserved to the Etruscans, such as the rights of intermarriage and inheritance, and aggressively insisted on them against the will of the Etruscan patrician class. There were complaints of rape and robbery. When the Revolutionary Party began to pass laws limiting patrician political activity, the Lucum once sent a clandestine embassy to Rome in 265 BC, asking for military assistance. On the return they were executed for treason, but shortly a Roman army arrived to lay siege to the town. The subsequent conflict was intense. The consul and commanding general Quintus Fabius Gurgis was a casualty. A year later his successor Marcus Fulvius Flaccus, receiving the surrender of the town through its starvation, razed it and executed the leaders of the plebeian party. The first display of gladiators at Rome in 264 is believed to have featured now captive freedmen from Volsinii. The Romans rescued and restored the remaining Etruscans of Volsinii, but decided it was necessary to remove them from that location to a new city on the shore of Lake Bolsena. The new city had none of the natural defences of the old and was not in any way sovereign. The portable wealth from the old city was carried off to Rome. If the old city was in fact Orvieto, it cannot have remained unoccupied for long. However, it was never a threat to Rome again. The new city soon assimilated to Roman culture, including language. Volsinii Novi, the Romans, when they took Volsinii, razed the town, and compelled the inhabitants to migrate to another spot. This second, or Roman, Volsinii continued to exist under the empire. It was the birthplace of Sacianus, the minister and favorite of Tiberius. Juvenal alludes to this circumstance when he considers the fortunes of Sacianus as dependent on the favor of Nursia, or Norcia, an Etruscan goddess much worshipped at Volsinii, into whose temple there, as in that of Jupiter Capitolinus at Rome, a nail was annually driven to mark the years. According to Pliny, Volsinii was the scene of some supernatural occurrences. He records that lightning was drawn down from heaven by King Bolsena to destroy a monster called Volta that was ravaging its territory. Even the commonplace invention of hand mills, ascribed to this city, is embellished with the traditional prodigy that some of them turned by themselves indeed. In the whole intercourse of the Romans with the Etruscans, we see the ignorant wonder excited by a cultivated people in the semi-barbarous conquerors. Remains. No definite traces of the Etruscan Volsinii have been identified. Of the Roman city, some remains of still extant at Bolsena. The most remarkable are those of a temple near the Florence gate, commonly called the Tempio di Norcia, but the remains are of Roman work, and the real temple of that goddess most probably stood in the Etruscan city. The amphitheatre is small and a complete ruin. Besides these there are the remains of some baths, sepulchral tablets, and a sarcophagi with reliefs representing the triumph of Bacchus. The Monte Volsinii mountain range in northern Lazio takes its name from the ancient city. Coinage. Volsinii minted coins in antiquity. A full discussion of the coins of Volsinii may be found in Mulla Etrusca, Volume I, pp. 324-333. Native Volsinians. Sagenus, Praetorian prefect under Tiberius. Musonius Rufus the Stoic. Aulus Cornelius Palma Frontonianus, Roman statesman.